no trace of her anywhere. Most people don't go missing without being reported.
She just vanished.
It never sat right.
She left December 22nd, I think, of 04. I think it was the happiest day of my life.
That's going to come back, and that's going to haunt you.
They had lived in a threesome relationship.
You could be culpable.
Culpable as in part of it?
But you're lying.
No, I'm not.
You may think AF got away with this, but you might not.
Then we saw something that was real shocking.
There's no good reason why there was a hole in the kitchen floor.
When the cadaver dog immediately hit on it.
It was devastating.
I know you know more than what you've given us.
I can't do this. You're crazy.
Boom. You just confessed to murder.
I met Robert Miller when his stepfather and I got married, and I became Robert's stepmother. When I came into the picture, Robert and Naomi Michelle were already married. I think they were 16, 17 when they got married. They were very happy, and she was a very good wife. Robert and Naomi Michelle had 2 children when I met them. Little Robert was 4, 5. Amber was 5 to 6 months old. She was a very devoted mother. Every place she went, those kids went. She really didn't have any family. Her grandmother had died that had always raised her. So we did a lot of things together, and we became her family. Around December of 2005, Robbie had told my husband and the family that Michelle had just left in the middle of the night with a police officer that she'd been having an affair with, which was the first that we'd known her doing anything like this. She didn't take anything. Over the years, I had even asked little Robert and Amber, have you heard from your mom? No, nobody's heard from her. They thought that she just walked out of their life and that was the end of her. I felt sad, especially for those kids. It just didn't sit right. But now Robert was left to raise those kids.
In May 2015, we received a phone call from Toni Epperson. She sounded like she was crying.
She said, I'm gonna sound crazy, but I'm telling you the truth.
I told him, I really think that Robert Miller has killed his wife.
She said that Robert's brother, on his deathbed, had recently said that Robert had confessed to killing Naomi Michelle back in 2005.
I had mixed emotions about going to the sheriff's department because I wondered, is the family gonna turn against me? But I couldn't let it go. It's kind of hard to prove something when you really don't have any evidence, and especially something so horrendous. But if you believe it in your heart and you feel like that, you need to do something about it.
A person on their deathbed has no reason to try to frame or get somebody else in trouble. And the suspicion level goes up exponentially. But before we could look at Robert as a suspect, we had to make sure that Naomi Michelle had not decided, for whatever reason, she didn't want to be in contact with their family anymore, or did something really happen and is she gone? We found that her driver's license expired in 2007 and it was never renewed, that she had not been employed or received any kind of Social Security benefits.
There was nothing from this woman in over 10 years. In this day and age, with the information technology, that is very hard to not have your name brought up in some search, anything. Naomi Michelle Miller just vanished. This definitely became a case of foul play rather than just a missing person. What I found really odd about this was I've known Robert Miller through previous incidents in law enforcement, but I knew him to be married to a different woman named LaDonna Miller. I had never heard of Naomi Michelle Miller. Talking to Miss Epperson, we learned that Robert and Naomi, through their marriage, they had started practicing being swingers.
In 2005, Robert and Naomi had invited LaDonna Yoder and her children to come live with them. I don't understand it, but to each his own. After Naomi disappeared, Robert and LaDonna, they went on about their life literally like she'd never existed. And a couple of years later, they did have a wedding.
The kids are all calling LaDonna Mom, and I found a marriage certificate for Robert Miller and Naomi. I did not find one for Robert and LaDonna, but the real red flag is there was no divorce decree for Robert or Naomi Michelle Miller.
How can you marry someone when you're already married to someone?
On May 14th, 2015, I was contacted in regards to a Naomi Michelle Miller. As a ranger, I have access to resources that the sheriff's office just does not have. Plus, I'm an experienced investigator and I've worked a lot of crimes. And so 2 heads are always better than 1 is what I'm trying to say. What you usually do in a criminal investigation is you go back to the last known location where your missing person lived. We drive out to the address on Glass Road where Naomi Michelle Miller lived with her husband, Robert, LaDonna, and then 4 children between the 2 relationships. But the family moved shortly after her disappearance. And there's new residents who had been living in the house for several years. We don't know what we're looking for when we get there. We don't know any specifics. We don't have a weapon. We don't know if there's going to be blood spatter on the walls.
During the initial walkthrough, we were going through the house.
This is the only room that's actually been remodeled.
And the owner took us into her kitchen and showed us a hole that had been cut in the kitchen floor. It was approximately 2 foot by 2 foot.
There was nothing there? It was just a hole. My husband is an engineer, and he was like, there's no reason for that hole to be right there.
The owner said that she thought that the house smelled for approximately 2 years after moving in.
Really, it smelled that bad?
Yeah, it smelled really bad.
So we just kind of thought maybe it was just a bad animal or
Because
something.
every time you go in there or in the back bedroom, it's just stunk.
It raised some big flags of why there's a hole cut in the floor. Why did the house have the odor of decomposition?
And so we summoned the use of a cadaver dog to help us with the search.
Cadaver dogs only train for human scent, and they can pass over a dead animal. It doesn't even register.
This particular dog's spirit had been used at the 9/11 event, and we felt like he had a good reputation for finding human remains.
The dog keyed on the outside access hole that was directly underneath the kitchen window. It was directly across from the hole that was cut in the kitchen floor. And as soon as we brought the dog in the residence, let it off the leash and ran straight into the kitchen and then started keying where the hole was cut in the kitchen floor.
We felt that there was a good likelihood we were going to find more evidence or even a body underneath the residence.
It smells under there.
Without a body, it's a he said, she said.
Well, it's got to be a grave. It's got to be.
We needed to locate Naomi.
This is the lady I believe.
She's been hemorrhaging information about this.
We're about tired of this half-ass bull. I want the story.
God, I don't know about that.
Okay, we got bucket 1.
Naomi Michelle Miller had been missing for 10 years. During the search at the residence where Robert, LaDonna, and Naomi Michelle Miller had lived, the cadaver dog alerted to human decomposition just outside the kitchen window, and also just a few feet away, a hole cut in the kitchen floor. Dirt had been disturbed and was soft and was relatively easy to remove.
It smells under there.
You could see the long oval depression in the ground. It was probably close to 2 foot deep.
Perhaps Naomi Miller had been buried right at that location.
Well, it's got to be a grave, dude. It's got to be.
Yeah, it's gotta be.
However, we did not find a body.
We were disappointed, but because the cadaver dog hit on human decomposition. In our heart of hearts, we all knew that a body had been there.
Although I couldn't fathom what had happened to it or why it had been moved.
If you start putting it all together, we believe that Naomi Michelle Miller met foul play. And now we've got to find her. And that's even harder to find a deceased person. Where is she resting? And let's try to get some justice for her.
Sergeant Five-Ash called me and told me that the cadaver dog hit under the house on Glass Road where they had lived. And I prayed a lot that if it was her, that they would find her body so she could be put to rest.
We forwarded soil samples to the Texas Department of Public Safety's crime lab to perform a test to try to locate human DNA or human blood, and the results were negative. However, the technician advised that it would not be unlikely that the time frame in which it had been sitting in the soil, that it would no longer be tested.
I really wasn't disappointed. I was just like, hey, what's next? With the deathbed confession from Robert's brother that Robert had told him that he had killed Naomi Michelle Miller, an unusual hole in the kitchen floor that the cadaver dog hit on, and the really foul odor at the residence on Glass Road for Robert Miller was elevated to our #1 suspect.
We didn't want to talk to Robert until we got the evidence to prove or disprove that Naomi Michelle had been murdered.
We didn't have enough information at that time just to try to leverage the truth from him.
And then, by luck, we got our chance.
Sergeant Five-Ash informed me a warrant had come in for Robert Lamar Miller for a Class B theft. Well, really, that's a pretty routine arrest. What's the best way to leverage this warrant to maybe get a break in the case?
We decided that we would make a big show of force where we knew that Robert and LaDonna now were living.
The plan where we would arrest him, make it appear more than a Class B theft without ever actually saying this is a Class B theft.
Hey, Robert. How are you doing, sir?
Oh, pretty good, sir.
Billy Five-Ash, Tom County Sheriff's Office. It's been a while. Well, the reason why we're here today is we got a warrant for your arrest. It's an old thing.
Man, I thought that was already taken care of.
Yeah.
All this over a misdemeanor?
Well, it's just a piddly deal, but we'll come down there and talk to you here in just a minute about it, all right?
Can I call my wife inside and let her come out here? I mean,
Yeah, well, I'll come talk to her.
We immediately wanted to separate the parties, try to get him arrested and get him out of there, and then try to have LaDonna come down to the sheriff's office and do a consensual interview with us.
The spouse of a murder suspect is always a great source of information. Who knows more about you than your spouse? And then we could take that information and sit down across from Robert and confront him with facts or information that he's never had to answer for before. This is the best chance we're going to have to get to the truth about what happened to Naomi.
We don't want her to know why he's really going to jail. Hello. I'm Sergeant Five-Ash, Montgomery County Sheriff's Office. How are you doing?
We're good. What can we do for you?
Well, we got Robert under arrest. Are you able to come up to County Sheriff's Office and come meet with us?
While Robert waited, we had decided that Ranger Hannah and I would interview LaDonna. Nothing that would make you feel like you were being interrogated. We needed LaDonna just to feel like she was a witness and that she wasn't being accused of committing any crimes.
You're free to go at any time. Okay.
We really just wanted to get the biographical commitment from LaDonna that she had been involved in a relationship with Robert and Naomi, and that she had lived in the home at the time of the disappearance. That way, she's putting herself at the scene of the alleged crime.
Let's just talk about the relationship. It's my understanding y'all were essentially lovers.
Yes, we had all been together, yes.
LaDonna tells us that on December 3rd, 2005, there was a verbal dispute between Naomi, Michelle, and Robert.
I wound up staying in the living room because it had gotten pretty bad.
Yeah.
And I'd fallen asleep, and when I woke up, she was gone. I was telling her, she said that she was tired of his BS and that she wanted to be treated like a queen.
She doesn't move her stuff out. She doesn't contact the kids. It's just and she's gone. We, as investigators, believe that Miss Miller is dead. Did Robert ever tell you he did anything to her?
No.
I felt that she was likely somehow involved and could bear some responsibility. To what degree, I didn't know. And so just to provide a little additional pressure for her, I wanted her to realize that I did not believe that Michelle was still alive.
I cannot tell you the string of incredible coincidences that indicate foul play. I also believe you could be culpable if you're not straight up with us today.
Culpable wasn't part of it?
Yes. What happened to her? We want
I don't know. All I know is that she left.
No, it's not true. He took her life.
We blamed Robert to give her the opportunity to say that Robert had committed the crime.
All the evidence we had, what little there was, did align with that.
They were fighting that night. And it gets quiet. And I didn't think nothing of it at first and stuff until he walked out of the house. He had something big in a blanket. And I just...
He had her body.
You watched him walk out with her body?
Yeah.
I asked LaDonna to recreate what she saw Robert doing when he was carrying the body, because I felt that made it real.
Kind of like a little bit of bundle right here. And it's just pulling like...
Okay. And it was wrapped in one?
In a blanket, a pastel-colored blanket.
Off the bed. It's hard to lie about that kind of thing when you're recreating it. And so when I saw her doing that, I thought, I believe you. I think you did see that. It was the beginning of the journey to finding Naomi. I asked LaDonna to recreate what she saw Robert doing when he was carrying the body, because I felt that made it real.
Kind of like a little bit of bundle right here. And it's just pulling like...
Okay.
There was no trace of Naomi Michelle for 10 years. And now LaDonna says that she just watched Robert carry out what she thought to be a body wrapped up in a comforter.
I know that was Michelle. I know that was Michelle.
It substantiated our belief that Michelle was dead.
And the next day,
There's like some dirt as you walk out the door right there. It was fresh.
there was a grave in your backyard.
So we showed her a photograph of the house and asked her to show us where the disturbed earth was. We had not told her at this point that we had done a search there.
And wouldn't that be interesting if that area that the cadaver dog hit on was indeed the same area of where the loose dirt was?
Right back here in that little cubbyhole right here.
Right next to the house?
Like right next to the house.
Under the kitchen, there was a hole right there, right where you're pointing.
I just noticed the dirt.
The cadaver dog hit right where you were talking for decon.
You just knew, yes, that is where that body was, and yes, we're on the right trail.
So all this time, have you ever asked Robert what he did to her? How he killed her?
No, because I didn't want to know. Because I didn't want to think about it. Every time I go to bed, I sit there and I think, oh my God, oh my God.
For us, it was unbelievable that Robert had committed this murder and they had never spoke of it.
So I had no doubt that she knew where the body was. I didn't know how she knew it, but I knew that she knew it. Where's her body?
Did he tell you he moved her body from the house?
He did not.
Because it was a consensual interview, we didn't want to push her too far. We wanted her to believe that we were on her side, so we wanted to keep the door open where she would still be willing to work with us.
But I also wanted her to leave with the impression that she has some accountability in this investigation.
We've asked you to be 100% open and honest today. I hope you have been. If we call you and all of a sudden you don't want to talk to us, to me, you've moved from being a witness, now you're going to be a target.
I understand.
Okay.
It was time to interview Robert and see what we could get out of him.
Robert had been waiting in another room for the past couple hours with knowledge that we were interviewing LaDonna.
You're very anxious. We still don't have a body, and he can say that he wants an attorney, and then we're just, we're stuck. We initiated the interview based on the Class B theft that we had originally arrested him on.
And she went down and filed charges on him for theft.
My goal was just to get him talking and to try to establish a little bit of rapport.
And then after that, we started talking to him about his relationship with LaDonna.
You and LaDonna been together how long?
I think it's about 12 years, 13 years now, something like that.
But it was basically just a segue to get into that conversation about Naomi Michelle.
All right. Was you married before then?
Mm-hmm.
What was her name?
Naomi Michelle. She was tired of being a wife and a mother. And she left December 22nd, I think, of 04. I think it was the happiest day of my life.
He may have thought I was laughing along with him, but he didn't know that we just received a statement about him carrying her dead body. I'm laughing because I'm thinking, thank you for that. That's going to come back and that's going to haunt you.
Naomi went missing in probably 05.
Went missing?
Well, that's the last known record of her.
She left that night.
Well, Robert, I want to tell you something. We know what's up.
Okay.
Okay. We ran a cadaver dog at the house. We found not a body, but we found evidence of a body.
Where?
Under the house.
Now I know for a fact
Right.
I didn't put nobody under the house.
Okay.
I swear to God.
We've already talked to LaDonna, and LaDonna has already confessed to the entire incident, including you
Okay.
wrapping her up and burying her.
Okay.
When Robert was confronted with the facts that he didn't think we knew before, then his physical demeanor did change. His arms crossed and he kind of closed down.
We know about a fight in the bedroom the night it happened.
No, there ain't no way.
The next morning she goes outside and she sees disturbed earth.
You know where she pointed, my friend?
No.
At the exact spot the cadaver dog hit.
Okay.
Right under the kitchen. And somebody went back and sawed a hole in the kitchen.
But I never
Or
saw
not.
no hole in no kitchen floor. I put that on my life.
I was giving him all those details in the hope that he'd recognize I'm beat. My best course of action now is self-preservation and confess and try to minimize the damage.
I do remember cutting a hole in the kitchen floor. We completely remodeled that house, sir, real close when we moved in it.
Robert's thinking that I'm still gonna bullshit these guys.
So you realize when you first came in here, you don't know anything about going underneath the house. Now all of a sudden, well,
If you'll look
I
at
did have a hole that I put in the kitchen floor.
because I remembered that. That's why I've been sitting here thinking about it.
To me, I think he realized that, okay, I can't stick with that lie anymore. It's exhausted. I wanted him to feel like I don't have any more alibis, and even my dead brother has given me up. Where his only avenue was to confess. That was my goal.
Your stepbrother had a come to Jesus meeting fairly close before he died. He tells Tony that you killed him.
I don't understand why he would tell him that. He's probably on dope.
It's your family telling me, man. I don't know.
Sounded like a fart in the wind. She's gone. Where did you put her?
Nowhere.
You're lying.
No, I'm not.
You know what it adds up to?
What?
It adds up to your ass supposed to get arrested for murder.
Well, I guess what it is then, because I didn't do it. You keep
Yes,
trying
you
to trap
did.
me in that, and I didn't do it.
I'm not trying to trap you. The evidence has you cornered up. I don't have
No,
to
it
trap
has somebody.
you. My naked ass, it has you.
I love that woman to death.
To death.
We've been in there with Robert probably going on almost 5 hours. And so we were running out of options. We didn't know if we'd ever get the chance to talk to Robert again.
He was not going to confess to me. I mean, he was a consummate liar. But juries love a confession. No body and no confession means no conviction.
We didn't know if Robert believed that LaDonna had told us what happened. We needed to try a different tactic, so we knew that if we brought LaDonna in the room and he could hear it from her, straight from her mouth, that maybe that would spur him to at least come clean with part of the truth.
It was a little bit risky. I didn't know if it was going to go great. I didn't know if he was going to jump across the table and attack her. We didn't know what to expect. All I knew is it's the last chance we have to get something from Robert today.
This is the lady I believe.
We didn't know if Robert believed that LaDonna had told us what happened. So we knew that if we brought LaDonna in the room and he could hear it from her, straight from her mouth, that maybe that would spur him to at least come clean with part of the truth.
It was a little bit risky, but no risk it, no biscuit, I heard somebody say one time.
This is the lady I believe.
Honey, why would you say I carried a body out, baby? What are you talking
Carry
about?
something out in a blanket. The blanket that she always wore on.
But I didn't carry Michelle in a body.
She saw you carry the
No,
body
you
out.
went out the
I
back
never
door.
carried a body out, no.
He's immediately trying to tell her what she saw and what she didn't see.
LaDonna, think about it very carefully.
I am thinking about it. I see
Calm
that
down.
every time. I see that in my...
Honey, really?
There was fresh dirt by the back door underneath that window.
Did you ever see Michelle
Calm
after
down,
that?
baby.
No.
LaDonna, calm down.
But I remember ending it pretty abruptly when I thought we've got a chance where he's going to influence her away from the truth.
Baby, calm down, please, and talk normal.
It is right.
But I wanted him thinking, I may not confess, but there's no doubt when I leave this interview today, they know that it's murder.
You have manipulated her for years.
Oh, I have not.
And not only you're a master manipulator, you are another word that begins with a M.
What?
Murderer.
After the interviews of the day with Robert and LaDonna and the information we had, we felt like we had established sufficient probable cause. We went the next day and arrested Robert inside the jail to serve the warrant on him for murder. But now when the pressure is really turned up for us, without a body, you have a very circumstantial case.
We needed to locate Naomi.
With the amount of information that LaDonna had given us the day before, I felt confident that she had more information to give. LaDonna was our best chance to find Michelle. Sergeant Five Ash and I would drive out with LaDonna to the residence where Robert, LaDonna, and Naomi Michelle lived at the time of the murder, and hopefully to elicit an emotional response from her. And maybe more information will come out.
Once we got to the house, you could see LaDonna get emotional. She started wiping her eyes.
What else is there you haven't told us? I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm trying
I know.
Look, I'm trying to get this guy locked up because I don't want him coming after you.
I know.
But if we got a half-ass case,
God, I can't do this no more. He did. He killed her.
Did he tell you he killed her?
Yes, he did. He did.
When did he tell you that he killed her?
About 3 days afterwards.
Has he ever told you where he moved her to exactly?
No, I know it's the racetrack because that was the only place we were at. He would go out there at any given time.
Robert and LaDonna ran a racetrack on the outskirts of San Angelo.
it was a place of convenience, a place that they owned and had some sort of control over. On March 7th, 2017, we broke ground at the racetrack to find Michelle's body.
November 5 Whiskey Golf, contact Mathis Tower, 118.3. 18.3.
We've got cadaver dogs, search teams, law enforcement officers, and all your equipment kind of staged. It's about 17 acres. We don't know how deep it is. It could be underneath a structure. There's a great uncertainty. We're gonna find this body, or we're gonna look for days, then everybody be kind of pissed at you at the end when we don't. It's stressful.
I had expressed to LaDonna that it was very important that if she knew a specific area of where Naomi was buried, that she needed to show us. And she immediately just took us over to a light stand.
This right here is where he concentrated. I mean, literally concentrated.
What was disturbed up here? What did he work on?
There was a dirt mound down there. I mean, all he had was a front end loader. It was just an old rinky-dink front end loader, but it was a big one.
My gut feeling was that she was telling us the truth about where we would find Michelle. But also, it was apparent to Sergeant Five Ash and I that her story changes when it was convenient and when it served her best. And that makes her look like she was more involved than she's telling us.
While the search was going on, Sergeant Allwine was re-interviewing Robert.
Now Robert knows the discovery is going to be imminent. We don't know for sure if we're going to find the body.
Going into the interview with Robert, I wanted him to pick up on how urgent this was for him to start telling a little bit more of his story.
If you want to cooperate with us and tell us what you know.
We had a couple of arguments that morning,
Right.
2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I laid down in the living room floor with my daughter, and with my youngest daughter, and I remember Donna coming there and telling us that, well, we don't have to worry about her no more. And I said, her? She goes, yeah, Michelle. I said, what do you mean we don't have to worry about her no more? I just don't have to worry about it no more. She goes, I took care of it.
Robert's now changed his story.
It wasn't exactly shocking. At this point, it's a he said, she said. I called Sergeant 5 Ash and Ranger Hannah at the track and let them know Robert's going to lay all the blame on LaDonna.
Ranger Hannah and I thought, let's tell LaDonna that now she's being accused of this murder.
Okay, here's what we got. They're interviewing Robert right now. Robert's saying you killed her.
Are you freaking serious?
Well, what did you expect?
Oh, now he wants to cooperate.
He knows we're gonna find the body.
So if there's anything else you know, this is time to get it up.
Okay, I was with him when he brought her out here.
Robert's saying you killed her.
Are you freaking serious?
So if there's anything else you know, this is time to get it up.
Okay, I was with him when he brought her out here. I wouldn't pick her up, I wouldn't touch her, but I did ride out here.
So about where the guy is with the shovel?
Yeah. Pulls the truck up, pushes her off. And he takes the maintainer and he goes back and he covers her up. She's in a blue tarp.
I knew the tarp would not deteriorate. And so obviously, while we were digging, that was going to be our cue that we had found the body. With this new information, we can move her more into the mode of a suspect more than a witness. She admits she played a role in the murder as far as getting rid of the body and withholding the information for all these years. And so at the very least, she's tampered with evidence. That is a felony in itself.
So do I need to call my family, tell them I'm going to jail?
I'm not going to arrest you. At that point in time, the big fish was to catch the murderer, and then we can go clean up the evidence tampering later.
Also, I want to do a voluntary statement again, not as a confrontational type interview, and I think she bought into that.
We just continued to search. LaDonna had indicated the specific area where we would find Naomi's body.
Every piece of dirt that was moved, we're looking for a blue tarp.
And then on one of those skims of the dirt, a little piece of the blue tarp was discovered. That was just, it's something I'll never forget.
We knew that we'd found her.
We all just stop, there's no celebration. Time slows down around you.
We methodically removed the soil around from the grave. We had finally got to a point that we could open up the tarp. We saw something that was real shocking. She had duct tape around her ankles, around her wrists, and she had duct tape that extended from about her eyes down to below her chin.
If you think about a loved one having to endure something like that, like if you're a dad, you can't fathom that somebody would do that to your daughter or to your wife or somebody you love. I mean, that's just the worst of the worst.
I thought that it was one of those that now I finally shut you up. The ultimate, I've got control of you. The way the duct tape was laid out, it was very neat, it was orderly. If one person was fighting another, there would be no way that they would be able to duct tape somebody by themselves. I had contacted Toni Epperson to let her know we had found the body.
You know, when I found out what they had done, I couldn't sleep for days. I can't imagine what kind of fear that she had in her last moments of her life. I mean, it was devastating.
We knew we needed to speak with LaDonna, but first, we decided to go ahead and conduct another interview with Robert Miller.
We felt that with the new development of the duct tape, I feel it's far more feasible that two people were involved and that both Robert and LaDonna were there for the murder. And I thought that might be the thing that would compel Robert to come forward with the truth. Otherwise, we may never know.
The next time you talk to somebody is going to be at a trial.
And I'm gonna tell you, there's gonna be 12 people sitting over here, they're gonna believe us, not you. They're going to talk to LaDonna, and they're gonna get a little more accusatory than they have been. She's been hemorrhaging information about this since the beginning. LaDonna doesn't do it without you, because you and LaDonna were together and had a relationship while Michelle was still alive. I know you know more than what you've given us.
Okay. She already had her wrapped up in a blanket when she come out and woke me up.
What happened at that point?
I laid the tarp on the bed, rolled her over on the tarp, folded it up, taped her legs up, taped her head up, taped her chest up. I did have the drainage ditch when we had the racetrack. Drove out there and put her in the ditch and covered it up.
That moment was big. We knew that he had had his hands on Naomi Michelle, either prior to her death or shortly thereafter.
I didn't want Michelle to die. I mean, it would have been so much easier to get a f***ing divorce.
Yeah, you should have got a divorce. You killed somebody.
Sergeant Five-Ash and I reviewed all the evidence. The recent discovery of the body, the condition of the body, the duct tape, Robert's statement, and the angles that we could utilize in a subsequent interview with LaDonna.
I contacted LaDonna on the phone. She comes to the sheriff's office.
The only thing that we had on her is tampering with evidence. But before long, she was going to be under arrest, and she was going to invoke probably counsel. So I felt this was probably the last chance we were going to have for a voluntary interview with LaDonna. Now it's time to become more confrontational. This is it.
I guess you saw in the news that obviously the body was found.
I read it on Facebook and everything.
You know, the body was duct taped. You aware of that?
No. Where was she duct taped at?
We got a picture.
Oh, no.
She was duct taped over her mouth and her face and her head.
Why?
Because she was alive when she did it. Because you helped him duct tape.
No, I did not.
Goddamn sure did.
I sure the hell didn't.
You sure did.
No, I didn't.
In fact, you're involved in it as deep as he is, and you know it.
No.
Yes, ma'am, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, it's hard to look at, isn't it?
I rarely get this, but with her, I felt that she really wanted to tell me what had happened. I really do feel like she wanted to confess to it.
What I think is you've got rolling it, and you better get straight with it 100%.
I didn't kill her. He wanted me to, but I couldn't kill her. I couldn't do it. He told me all you had to do is put the damn pillow over her face and I'll hold it out. And when she turned her head, and I looked at him, I said, I can't do this shit. You're crazy.
What I think is you've got rolling it, and you better get straight with it 100%.
I didn't kill her. He wanted me to, but I couldn't kill her. I couldn't do it. He told me all you had to do is put the damn pillow over her face and I'll hold it out. And when she turned her head, and I looked at him, I said, I can't do this shit. You're crazy. And he goes, I'll f*** it. He says, give me the pillow, and he just smashed it.
So you were in the room.
Yes.
Boom. You just confessed to murder.
And why she has duct tape and stuff, I don't know. God, I don't know about that. Because I ran out of the room as soon as she was dead. I ran out of the room and I sat there and I just shook.
I had no interest in letting off the gas or letting her regain her composure because we'd been through a lot of effort to get to the truth. We're not about to let that moment go. You just don't get them very often.
Why did Robert want her dead?
He said she was crazy. He was tired of her always trying to take off with Amber in the middle of the night if she wanted to.
How many conversations did y'all have about killing her?
There was probably about 3. He says, it's gotta happen. He says, I can only trust you. I can only trust you. And I said, whatever, I can't do it.
What time did this happen?
Like 10:30, 11 o'clock. It was pretty late. We laid there and Michelle fell asleep first. And then he leans up and he goes, now. I said, I can't.
He was in bed?
Yes. We all 3 were. I mean, I know I didn't take her last breath away, but I sat there and watched it.
This was a pre-planned, premeditated, cold-blooded murder.
They were both 100% a party to the crime.
When he told me he was going to move out to the racetrack, I thought he was crazy. And he said, we'll have the racetrack forever.
And when was this?
It was probably a couple of months. I want to say the 1st of March.
The motive we had learned from LaDonna was that Naomi had threatened to leave, had threatened to take the children several times, and that Robert didn't want to be separated from his kids. That was the end of the road for LaDonna, and we arrested LaDonna Yoder for the murder of Naomi Michelle Miller.
At this point, Robert was still blaming LaDonna for the entire murder, and I think any investigator would want that confession. But it was just a sad fact that he wasn't going to let go.
The confession statements of LaDonna, they were the centerpiece of our case, and they led us to the body of Michelle.
On July 16th of 2018, Robert Miller and LaDonna Yoder both pled guilty to the count of murder. Robert was sentenced to 38 years and LaDonna to 35.
Finally, it was a done deal.
I always hoped that they would find Michelle and that she would be all right. Now we know the truth. At least now she could be put to rest. Nobody should ever be just discarded like that. And Robert and LaDonna got what they deserved for it.
There was a point in the investigation where we found a photograph of a wedding type ceremony between LaDonna and Robert. We really couldn't believe what we were seeing. LaDonna and Robert were at the dirt track, just feet where Michelle's body was lying in a tarp. They just seemed to be partying it up, dancing on the grave, literally.
That is the ultimate betrayal, disregard for human life.
And it was like one final slap in the face to Michelle.
LaDonna and Robert, for 10 years, were never on the radar of law enforcement. If Tony never would have reported this, Robert and LaDonna would have gotten away with murder.
Really, one reason I decided I wanted to do this was to put that hope out there for someone else. You know, maybe there is somebody that knows something and they're scared to come forward.
As far as this case, I hope it speaks to people who are sitting out there who have committed these kinds of crimes in the past, that you may think, hey, I've got away with this, and you know what, you might. But you know what else? You might not.
I have the utmost respect for the Sheriff's Department. To think that I came in there with no proof whatsoever, except that nobody had seen her, and they believed me. You know, now maybe her children can have closure and maybe they can realize that their mom really did love them and that she did not walk out on them.
I do believe that Naomi found final justice. I think if she was here today, she'd give us a hug. I would hug her back.
For more about Criminal Confessions, go to Oxygen.com.